Many of us have dealt with situations ourselves and our children that have caused emotional, psychological, and hurts. And so when we are pulling our children close in homeschooling and wrapping our arms around our children to say, hey, we're here to create this community because it's easier to raise a healthy child that's emotionally, spiritually, and physically healthy than it is to fix damaged adults.
Welcome to Homeschool Talks, a podcast by HSLDA. This is a show about all things homeschooling, from practical tips to inspiring stories and everything in between. You can find show notes for this episode along with our other Homeschool Talks conversations at hslda.org/podcast. And if you want to be the first to know about new episodes as well as upcoming guests and topics, sign up for our email list using the link in the show notes. We're so glad you've joined us today, and we hope you enjoyed the program. Here's your host, Jim Mason.
Hi, I'm Jim Mason, president of Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and welcome to another episode of Homeschool Talks, where I get to talk to interesting people out in homeschooling land. Today's interesting person that I'm speaking with is Nicole Doyle from DeKalb County, Georgia. She is the president of DeKalb Christian Home Educators and co-founder of the Georgia Black Home Educators Network. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you.
So, Nicole, you're a homeschool mom, amongst other things. Tell us about your homeschooling career.
Well, I came to homeschooling around 2014. I had a middle schooler who was not satisfied with his schooling experience, and a fourth grader at the time also, and a first grade and pre-K student. And actually, homeschooling was suggested to me by a public school teacher. She saw that I was volunteering a lot at the school. She herself wanted to homeschool and thought it would be an amazing thing because I had the time and the freedom to homeschool my children, especially because my fourth grade at the time was having issues because he's ADD.
And how many children do you have?
Well, I have 4 children, ages 21, 19, 15, and 12. I have graduated 2 homeschoolers. My oldest son is a senior, majoring in computer science, and my freshman is at Morehouse College. He's majoring in theater studies, and he's also on the Glee Club.
Wow. So our listeners won't know this, but right before we got rolling on the podcast, we were having some technical issues on Nicole's side, and so she called in the teenage technology cavalry. See, I always get those mixed cavalry, as I do at my home. So your homeschooling experience started 10 years ago. What's it been like for you, and how did you approach it?
Well, the homeschooling experience it's been great. Every year we're learning more, we're doing more, and it's just been an opportunity to curate our children's individual interests into an academic endeavors. So when I first joined DeKalb Christian Home Educators, I joined it because of the parent support group. My children weren't a part of the group yet as participating with co-ops or anything. I just attended the parent co-op group. They had our mom's prayer meeting. They will also have courses on how to plan your school year, maybe even start keeping records. So I was attending for that support arm portion, and then an opportunity came up where they needed someone to coach their Bible Quiz Bowl team. And they also didn't have a location to use in the evening. So my husband and I decided to volunteer our home. And so for a whole year, we were fortunate to host 30 teenagers in our home for Bible Quiz Bowl practices. And then we began to travel with that Bible Quiz Bowl team. And now with DCHE is one of our largest clubs that we still participate in.
I'm told that you did a lot of field tripping in your early days of homeschooling.
Yes. So the first year of homeschooling, a veteran homeschooling grandmother, she suggested that we pull away from school and just really try to enjoy the learning process. So we spent a lot of time at the library, and we started to do what we call field trip Fridays. Every Friday we would go on a different field trip, and basically whatever we read at the library, we would try to find those things in Georgia to go actually view. So we spent some time looking at Native Americans and their history. And so here in Georgia, we have the Etowah Indian Mound. So we got a chance to go there and visit that area. We also went to the Atlanta History Center to be able to really look at a lot of the history and even some environmental sites such as Providence Canyon that's here in Georgia. It's like it's called the Little Grand Canyon, and it's here in Georgia. So we spent a lot of time just field tripping and letting the children have an opportunity to detox a little bit from public school.
When you started attending the parent side, excuse me, of Christian DeKalb County or DeKalb Christian Home Educators, I notice now you're the president. How did that happen?
So after about 2 years, the president of the organization, her daughters, she's the mother of 5, and her children were aging out of the of DeKalb Christian because our co-op at the time was mostly middle school and elementary at the time. We've since expanded to have more grades and activities for those students. But she was going to be appointed as the new head of the high school co-op that is located 15 minutes from me. So she asked me if I would just take over, because at that time I was functioning as a Science Olympiad coach, doing FLL robotics and Bible quizzing. And so I prayed about it and thought it was a wonderful opportunity to bring in some new activities and to really reach out to more parents.
What is your co-op day like now?
So our co-op day starts at 9 a.m. Well, for everyone else, of course, if you run the co-op, you got to be a little bit earlier. But our co-op day starts at 9 a.m. and we start off with our classical studies courses, which include Socratic discussion groups around history, rote math skills, and science. After we have that from 9 to 11, we usually have Spanish from 11 to 12. And then after the kids break for lunch, we have Bible Quiz Bowl. So Bible Quiz Bowl starts at in the afternoon, and it is our only course in which there's no competing course on the block schedule, because we believe that either you're in Bible Quiz Bowl listening or you're either participating. And we've made a decision as a board that will be our foundational activity to make sure that the Word of God is constantly being introduced to our children, and that our children are really comfortable with the Word of God and really seeing Him as a friend. And so we make Bible quiz bowling fun. It is totally like there are buzzers, and it is game show like, and we actually go on competitions with it, and a lot of snacks are given as rewards. We're here in Georgia, so we appreciate Chick-fil-A for helping us out with a couple of Chick-fil-A sandwich cards here and there for the children who are able to memorize at least 50 Bible verses in that school year.
Wow, 50. That's a lot. That's pretty good. How many kids do you have participating then?
So at the height before the pandemic, we had 73 children participating. Right now, we are steadily growing, and we are at 51. We are very excited. We have the kids ranging from 11th grade to 5 years old in Bible Quiz Bowl. And we have 3 levels of teams: elementary, middle, and high school. And we are the junior ambassadors because we said that we are called to be ambassadors for God. And so our children are just very excited about Bible Quiz Bowling. The season ends at Camp Sabine Bible Ministry Camps in Spring City, Tennessee, and it is an old-fashioned summer camp with canoeing and riflery and archery, horseback riding. And so the last tournament is at this camp, and after the tournament is over, all the kids get to participate in 1 day of free camp.
Oh, nice. How many of your kids end up going to that camp?
About 30.
Oh, that's a good number. Wow. So it sounds to me like your faith is an important part of your homeschooling experience. How has that played out with your kids since you left the public schools and became full-time homeschool?
Well, with our kids, I know the first year we homeschool, we decided to detox from some of the homeschool activities we were doing. One of the things that we decided to do was to spend that school year going through the Bible. So we started in Genesis, and we just started to go through. I remember the first year we got to John, because it's just when you try to work through it with children, it takes a while. But by the time we got to the second school year, we decided to use a method where with proverbs, so 31 proverbs. So we were like, you know what, we're gonna pick a proverb and go through it every single day, and also we will go through the Psalms, at least 2 to 3 every day. The children, I have to say, with my 21-year-old, I remember when he got to college, and some of my teenagers were complaining about having to go to Bible quiz bowl tournaments because they were on the weekend and they may have other activities. And my 21-year-old senior now in college said, if there's any activity you need to not pull back from, that is the one activity, because he had a very interesting, um, contentious conversation with someone who was really misinterpreting the Bible in reference to phrases about love. And he was like, well, I remember a Bible quiz bowl season. We went through First and Second Corinthians, and he was able to really talk with this student, and show them in the Word many of the worldly views that he had were not biblically based. And so we're very excited about Bible quizzing being one of the pivotal activities for our group that makes sure our children are rooted in really understanding it for themselves.
What would you say was the most joyful experience, or if it wasn't joyful, feel free to tell me otherwise, but what was the best experience for you guys homeschooling?
Oh, wow. The best experience for us homeschooling. I would say the best experience for us homeschool has been us being able to not just study the word and our faith, in a literature sense, or written physics, but to actually go out and put some action to it. So when it comes to our homeschool co-op, we volunteer with a food pantry, Hugs and Hope Community Table, and there's a food pantry here. And our homeschool co-op used to be located in the same church with this food pantry, and they serve about 400 families every Tuesday. And so our kids were excited to be packing groceries and putting together boxes for the seniors, and even our Girl Scout troop that we have in house. They started a community garden that sits across the street, that the county donated us the land to use at that time for medically fragile and seniors to be able to have fresh produce. I think the best part of that was that to see the children excited to work to work in that environment. But it's also about the fact that those children, they were very creative with ideas. So some of the kids say, I'm noticing homeless people when we get to the red light. Can we create, they call them car care bags that had items and toiletry and shelf-stable foods in them. And then the children actually wrote notes and prayers to the homeless people, to be like, hey, we're praying for you and we're thinking about you. And they were being creative in the ways in which they wanted to help the community. And so that has been the most touching part about this, is to see the children like go, okay, yes. So we want to be the hands and feet of God, and we've read about so many amazing things. What can we do? So just putting that faith in action and working with this food pantry.
So you have you started homeschooling just about 10 years ago, and you obviously are now in leadership in your area. What's your elevator pitch to families who come and ask you, why should I homeschool, or should I homeschool?
It's so interesting. I never get that question.
Oh no! We can cut this out.
I never get the question, why should I homeschool? When parents are showing up, they are like, someone told me about you. I just want to come and see because I am looking. These are the parents who are like, so this is not working. I'm looking at you because I've already made up my mind. I'm just trying to find the best fit option. Now, we've had parents to come to our homeschool co-op, and I always tell them like, hey, evaluate us like you would any organization. Like, are we in a good location for you? Because if you've ever been to Metro Atlanta, traffic will drive you crazy. So, but I know because of the Georgia Black Home Educators Network, we know of several other Christian co-ops that we can connect you to, or that may be closer to you. We may not offer all the courses that you want. There are Christian co-ops here who have musical theater, which is something my children were able to participate in another co-op, and they were participating in musical theater. Or your children may have more of a STEM leaning, and so you're looking for a high school robotics team. And so we can direct you toward co-ops that give you the ability to find your child's particular interests. And we're just grateful to be in a position to guide you toward what is best for your family so that you can fulfill the missions that God has put on your heart in reference to your children. Because as a parent, you know your child better than me. And so I don't get the question, why should I homeschool? I get the question, where can I find what I'm looking for? And so we always tell parents, have you prayed about it? Number one. And number two, what are the foundational things you're wanting for your child? Not just courses and classes. If you were to look 20 years down the road, what do you want your legacy to look like? Who do you want your children to be? And are you proud of the effort that you put into creating them to be productive, amazing disciples of Christ and citizens in this global world that we're a part of?
Wow. So you and I met at the national conference, the HSLDA National Leaders Conference in St. Louis. We may have met in Cincinnati. Did we meet in Cincinnati? Were
Yes,
you in Cincinnati?
so we met in St. Louis and Kentucky.
Yeah. So we actually chatted last year in St. Louis some, and you mentioned earlier, but you are the co-founder of the Georgia Black Home Educators Network. How did that get started? What's its purpose, and how's it going?
So the Georgia Black Home Educators Network was started about, I would say, last summer. So in working with the past president of this homeschool co-op, who's now heading up the high school co-op, we were talking about, we need a workshop, we need a conference, we need some kind of place where all the parents can come together and learn what's available in the community, can get maybe even some direction from homeschooling experts that are available at HSLDA and various other educational providers. And so that's really what it started, because we felt like we were not necessarily equipped to take on all the babies into our homeschool co-op. But the main mission we realized was that it's not for us to do that, because that's what sometimes schools do. Really, our mission is to equip, encourage, and energize the parent. And so that became the motto. We kept saying equip, encourage, and energize. And we finally decided, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and come up with a group name. And when you meet with like-minded moms who you're talking, we just came together as a group, and we were meeting with some of the outreach coordinators at HSLDA who were very helpful in helping us to get our first conference off the ground, which happened in January of this year. And so one of the missions of Georgia Black Home Educators is to share and secure opportunities, resources, and access to homeschooling, curriculum, providers, and we are just really in a place of, also with our conference, dealing with a lot of educational entrepreneurs. So we're recognizing this community cannot be sustained unless we have these Christian educational entrepreneurs who want to be in a place to serve parents in that way, because the parent is the contractor for their child's education, general contractor, you could think of them, and then they are maybe subcontracting out things like French, but ultimately it's about the parent power. And so this conference, we really want parents to understand that you are curating your child's education. And you can call in experts and really speak to veteran moms, but the call is on you to really take up that mantle.
So you had your first conference. Tell us about the conference. How big was it? Was it a good success? Are you going to do it again?
Yes, so we're definitely going to do the conference again. So at our conference, we had 276 in-person participants, and we had 43 exhibitors who were from nonprofits, advocacy, co-ops, micropods, even private teachers and tutors, piano, violin, viola, cello. We even had private providers of PE who do various athletic organizations, the swim school, and so we were just ecstatic about it. Many of the education entrepreneurs, some of them were people who've been serving this community for decades as the piano teacher, but they weren't necessarily packaged in a way in which other people outside the community would access them. And so one of the things that we were asking all of these providers to do is to have a website and to maybe have two forms of social media presence. And so we sat with them to help them get these things in order. But the National Black Home Educators really helped us. They sponsored many of these educational providers to be able to afford these vending tables. Sometimes we don't see a diverse representation of exhibitors and vendors at sometimes because it may be out of their price point to be able to participate in some of these expos that are showcasing Christian home education options. And so we were very excited to have Joyce Burgess, Mr. and Mrs. Burgess, to really come forth and provide sponsorship for 13 new um, entrepreneurs, or as we call them, edupreneurs, because education entrepreneurs, in this space, so that this is just not a moment where we can really capture it and be more sustainable by giving a parent direct access.
So researchers are saying that the rise of homeschooling amongst Black families in America it's rising faster than amongst other families. Is that your experience as well? And how do you explain that?
Yes, so the data is showing us that, even there are about 3.7 million kids being homeschooled, about 3.3% of that before the pandemic were Black families, and now we're like at 6.1% of Black families homeschool. And these are the families who remained after, as many of us have called it, pandemic schooling ended. And so we are seeing parents choose homeschooling for a variety of reasons, religious and worldview reasons. There are also some parents feel like the schools do not have all the capabilities because there have been some teachers displaced to accommodate with educational supports for some of the children who are having difficulties. We're also seeing there are implicit bias that sometimes marginalizes parents and their children, where teachers may not be as receptive to a super involved mama coming in to help with her child. There's insensitivity in the curriculum. And even some curriculums, we're not even mentioned at all or allowed to be mentioned at all. And so some of those parents are saying, I want to have a whole experience that speaks to my child, to our family's Christian ethics, that speaks to our culture, our ethnicity, and where we come from, and the history and a legacy that portrays images that we are proud and want to share with our children.
Where do you see both three things? Where do you see your family 5 years from now? Where do you see your Christian co-op? And where do you see the Georgia Black Home Educators Network 5 years from now?
So with my family, because I think at that point I will be on my last child. That will be senior year. She will be 17 going on 18. And that feels like a wow. But so that's why I see my family. Hopefully along those lines, we'll have young men looking toward marriage and in
Mhm.
those years, because that's important to me. At the end of the day, I will, want to be I want to be a grandma one day. But let's see. As far as like my co-op, because our co-op was started in 1989, and I'm president number 8. So I would love to see, and right now I'm in the process of really making sure that we have legacy leadership, where we are pulling in these parents to really understand the ethics and our foundation of DCHE, to be able to pass this on. So I see DCHE lasting when I'm able to come back as your grandma used to be the president years and years ago. As far as Georgia Black Home Educators, I see it growing as a network where parents can go to and really be able to immediately access a provider in the area according to whatever they're looking for. We have families who, like for instance, I have a family who's they are looking for a French tutor. They are Haitian, but they would like to have a French tutor because of they have patois, and they were like, we would like a French tutor to really go over some French literature with our children. And that's a very niche thing to look for, someone who understands Haitian culture, patois, but they are going to be looking at an academic scholarly French. And so to be able to go to a network, and that, I mean, even just in communicating, because this is about creating a community where it's like, hey, we can have a conversation about what's bothering you, what's going on. Ultimately, I feel like homeschooling is also about healing some of the generational hurts that have happened with the Black family. Many of us have dealt with situations ourselves and our children that have caused emotional, psychological, and hurts. And so when we are pulling our children close in homeschooling and wrapping our arms around our children to say, hey, we're here to create this community, because it's easier to raise a healthy child that's emotionally, spiritually, and physically healthy than it is to fix damaged adults. And we are here to secure childhood joy. That I believe if we can have childhood joy, I believe the world will be a better place for many of us as adults.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that don't really understand homeschooling, or maybe people from the media who are asking questions. They really don't understand homeschooling isn't just about a mom and a kid at the kitchen table, learning the ABCs. There's this incredibly diverse network of people creating a community, in lots of different communities with lots of crossover and connections and entrepreneurs and volunteer leaders who rise up to meet the moment. And it makes for this really great way to raise children. It's not, people always say, well, aren't your children isolated? But listen to you. I mean, your kids and the kids in your co-op and the parents in your network are connected in ways that lots of families aren't. So, last word to you, Nicole. Anything that I forgot to ask you or that you'd like to say?
Let's see. That's a good one. So I would say, when it comes to homeschooling, I know I've had many people that ask me the question of why Georgia Black Home Educators Network. And I was like, I put it in as a call out to people who feel like it wasn't open to them. The same way as in the Bible, they say Jews and Gentiles. I mean, if the Lord thought he could say, all y'all come over here, he would have done that. But he had to call out individual people groups to be like, hey, it is open to you too. And so this is a call to to a people group, but it's not closed to anyone in this community. We are brothers and sisters in Christ. And so we are saying that this is a time for just such a time as this. We just came out of a pandemic, several things happened, but parents sat at home with their kids. And in that moment with their children, they recognized there were some spaces that as a mom or a dad, we're not covering. Homeschooling is allowing many of these families to really prioritize the rearing of their children, their marriages and their relationships. We even have parents who are co-parenting parents because they're not together anymore, but they are on one accord to say, we are doing this to raise healthy children that are future disciples. And so I would just welcome anybody that if you have an opportunity to really take a moment to even look at our website, look at the conference that we had. We were very happy and very ecstatic to have HSLDA partner with us and send over so many of their experts who were able to not only from the stage and minister, because we are trying to encourage and equip and energize these families to say that your journey as a parent in your household is absolutely ministry. And this ministry that you're having in your household, it is about your marriage. It is about your children. It is about prioritizing things in a certain way. It's even about finances. I've watched my finances clear up because I'm like, that's not important. But you know what is important? Piano. So when we are going to do that. So, I am excited about what families are embarking upon as they partner with God, give over their faith, their trust into what God has as a plan for them, a plan to prosper them and give them a future, and just let the Holy Spirit lead them in every endeavor in reference to their children and their family that is individual to them. And so I just am blessed to be a part of that movement.
Well, Nicole, you're an inspirational speaker. We were really delighted that we could partner with you guys down there in January and hope to do it again. I imagine that somebody listening here today is going to be inspired by your words. If they have an idea about starting something in their community similar to what you've done, how can they get a hold of you?
Oh, well, you can get a hold of me a couple of ways. You can go to the Georgia Black Home Educators Network at www.georgiablackhomeeducators.org, or you can go to the DeKalb Christian Home Educators, which is dcheducators.org. But recently my kids, like you were talking about, my tech-savvy children, decided that I needed my own website. So I am officially, as of 2 weeks ago, these children created me a website, and they actually put themselves prominently as the picture as a group on my website. And it is NicolePDoyle.com, and it was created by my kids.
Well, great. I really appreciate your time and all of the energy and devotion that you're putting in down there in the Atlanta area. And if you'd like to get a hold of me, I'm at hslda.org. I'm Jim Mason, the president. You can come to our website, join there, donate there, find out lots of good information. We have a page for groups as well. If you're a leader of a group similar to what Nicole is, we'd be happy to put you on that as well. So once again, my guest, Nicole Doyle, who's the president of DeKalb Christian Home Educators and co-founder of Georgia Black Home Educators Network. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Today's program is made possible by Mom Possible. Step into this engaging, interactive space for practical support from moms who are right there with you in the day-to-day of homeschooling. You can browse our library of tips and resources, see how other parents are answering common questions about homeschooling, or join our mentoring group for deeper community support. Get started at mompossible.org. That's mompossible.org. Thanks for listening to this episode of Homeschool Talks. If you've enjoyed this conversation, will you do us a favor by sharing it with a friend or leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts? As a reminder, you can find show notes for this episode along with our other Homeschool Talks conversations at hslda.org/podcast. And if you want to be the first to know about new episodes, as well as upcoming guests and topics, you can sign up for our email list using the link in the show notes. That's all for now. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we'll see you next time.